By the time this video goes out, we'll have just completed a 2-day live event called the Find and Fund Workshop. Principally what we're doing is we're showing you how to find off-market land and then how to fund it. Recently I did a Zoom meeting showing all the different components of this workshop, and what I'd like to do now is just let you have a look at that meeting that was recorded earlier. If you're interested at all in joining us on one of these workshops, then I will put a link below this video so that you can book a discovery call, and just to make sure that we are a good fit for each other and that you realize all the different components and ask questions, but also we want to make sure you really understand what the commitment is required in order to become a successful property developer. With that said, now let's go over to the Zoom meeting and let you have a look at it. Essentially, the two biggest components of when you are looking to get into development is finding the deals, essentially finding land, and funding the deals. So the idea is to give you a clear path through that. So the actual 2-day live course essentially focuses on that. So just very, very briefly about a little bit who I am. In 1973, I bought with my brother a flat in the student area of Edinburgh. That got my interest in property development. I saw that triple in value in 6 years. That enabled me to actually go into my own business after 10 years working for various companies. I eventually built that up over the next 7 years to 4 shops and a petrol station. And then I took myself, my youngest child, who was only about a year old, and my wife across to Florida. We lived there for 9 years, operated several businesses there. And then I came back to the UK and in 2000 and had a little bit of a disaster and ended up taking over a petrol station in this place, which is in the remote part of Scotland called Loch Gilphead, 3,500 population, and that was the biggest town for quite a number of miles around. So in order to try and boost my not so much earnings, but in terms of my capital base, I started to look back at property, and because I was given the option in about 5 years time from this to purchase the petrol station. So I bought a buy-to-let, kind of realized that, yeah, that probably wasn't going to get me there quickly enough. Bought a house, renovated it, and then decided that I was actually going to get into new builds. So that decision I took in 2005. This is the first house that I built several years later, taken from a Google Snap. But the first challenge was to find land, then to build it out, and obviously finish it off. So tonight we're basically going to cover what's involved in the find and fund course, plus there's some additional bonuses there. So the first thing that people always think is let's find some land, and that's absolutely right. But the biggest roadblock that people face is that they don't know how to fund the deals. And so this is the roadmap that we kind of used, and the actual 2-day weekend work is basically on these modules here: detect, detail, deal, and fund. That's the main focus. We do cover the other stuff, but not so much of that at the weekend. We're really looking at finding deals and then funding those deals. And so a lot of people think that they need to get the funding first, when in fact what they need to do is actually get the deal first. It's all about the deal, because if you don't have a deal, then you can't attract investors, and you can't have loan companies look at the deal that you are trying to fund. They'll just say, go away and bring me something, you know, when you've got something, bring it to me. So the first thing is, yes, find some land. And I have to say, these slides, initial slides here, are the courtesy of Owen. Owen was one of the first students that came onto the program, and Owen has become a real ninja at finding land, and I'll get him to just briefly talk a little bit later on. But he now actually does the presentation of finding land and actually finds land for people on the 2-day course in their own particular areas. So these are slides that actually Owen had built up. but these are just some of the examples of prospects that he's looked at, and some of them he has actually successfully converted into land deals. So I say he'll do a live land search. This is really just a very, very quick overview, because I said that we would do this in about 30 minutes. So I'm really determined to keep to that time. So finding deals, we talk about how to find sites, how to lay them out for the maximum development potential. So, looking at a piece of ground, how many properties can you get on that? So you want to maximize the amount that you can, because that obviously increases the overall value, the gross development value being the eventual selling price of the combined units that you have on that site. So if that's one house or 9 houses, what is the end valuation? In other words, think of it as like the selling price. How to establish that GDV, which is kind of important, because everything that you do works back from that figure. So if you're going to sell that for $1 million, what's it going to cost to build it out? Therefore, how much is the land going to be worth? And you've got to build in, first of all, obviously, your profit there. So we teach you how to do that, how to establish build costs. That is a big one for people, because build costs vary throughout the country, and depending on what you build. And it's one of the biggest obstacles people kind of face, because there is no magic number, and depending on where you are, in some areas you'll be shocked by how low it is, in other areas you'll be shocked by how high it is. So we teach you how to establish those build costs, how to establish then therefore how much the land is worth. And I'll show you what I refer to as software. It's not really that, it's an Excel workbook, but I'll take you through that and just show you briefly what that looks like. And that allows us to quickly conduct a desktop survey. And once it's set up, you can usually do a survey within 20 to 30 minutes, and that therefore it minimizes you wasting time on deals that just don't work out. And then how to uncover the hidden pitfalls. So once you've got an initial assessment, you then want to start, if it passes that, you want to then start looking at it much more thoroughly. And so we have a whole checklist of things that you go away and check. And if there's any cost implications, that feeds them back into your figure, and obviously would reduce your residual land value. And then at some point, you're going to have to contact the landowner. You're going to have to negotiate with them. So there's a process, and everything that we do is process driven. So it's step by step to show you, what do you say at your first meeting? The question you're going to be asked is, how much are you going to pay for my land? So we teach you how to deal with that, how to negotiate with the landowner. And during the 2-day event, we'll have various practice sessions at negotiation. So we'll put some spanners in the works there, and then teach you how to deal with those spanners in the works, because these are going to be common things that you are going to get from landowners when you're looking to deal with them. And then how to deal with funders. Fund your deal, should I say. So we've got traditional funders. We've got a guy I've used, and Owen again has used them as well. Luke O'Sullivan, he's going to come along on the Sunday, and he's going to talk about funding. And then there's an opportunity. He'll talk about all the different types of funding, but he'll also have an opportunity for you to have a one-on-one session with him, so you can discuss your particular personal circumstances. So that's not something you want to do at the front of the room, but it's something that I think would be valuable to be able to make that connection early on. And then we'll talk about, probably talking about it before then, but we'll be talking about how do you bring in private investors. So essentially, you're going to fund your deal, you find out what you're going to get from your traditional lending sources. And then you need to know, how much do I need to put into the deal? You're either going to put that in from your own resources, or you're going to need actual private investors. And so we will actually show you how to find those investors, and we will help you secure at least 3 people who are saying, giving you a nod. Now, they can't give you a complete nod because you don't have a deal necessarily to show them, but you'll get that sort of response saying, yes, when you've got something, bring it to me. So we'll have, everybody will walk away with at least 3 potential investors in their business. How a complete novice with 0 credibility can attract investors. So we'll show you how to do that, how to package your deals. And then we've got some various other topics which are important to cover. But it's one of these things of give people what they want, but also give them what they need. And some of those things people don't necessarily think they need, but we're going to give them to you. So that's kind of why I'm not going to go into that in any sort of great detail at the moment. So you get all access to all the slides at the end of it. Of course, we've got a portal on our membership site. Some of you are not necessarily a member of that, and we've got the templates in there that you'd have access to it. So the actual 2-day course event is where you find land and investors to fund the deals. That's kind of everything that I've covered up to now. All the refreshments, lunch during the 2 days, and a meal on the Saturday evening. And the price of that is it's not coming up for some reason. Is $19.95 plus VAT. That can be split into 4 payments of $4.95.75 plus VAT each month. It's just it's an equal payment, so there's not like any surcharge on that. Next year, I am going to introduce a slightly higher price there, and the general price will be going up, but any commitment this year will be honoured at that price. However, there are some bonuses, and these have always been core to this. Well, at least not all of them actually. So some of these have been core to the offer, and it's just really at the moment a way of repackaging it. So you get lifetime access to all the online courses and portal. The Find It course. This is the complete land finding course plus the accountability group. I say worth £750 because that's actually what we have sold it for and do sell it for on our website. So this is not a fake value. This is actually something where you can actually buy these components separately, but you'll kind of see why you might not want to as I go through this. And that is worth, but it really is worth the 750 because that's what you're going to pay for it if you don't do it with this package. And then the Plan It and Build It. So that's the whole sort of everything that goes beyond after you have found planning. So that kind of roadmap that I showed you, I'll come back to that, but that's kind of what's covered there. So it's from taking it through planning your build, funding it, because you're going to look at the initial funding when you're assessing your site, but actually once you've got the deal, then you need to actually put the funding in place. So you'll then have nailed down your costs through the planning stage. And I don't mean putting it through planning permission, because once you've got it through planning permission, you're then going to submit your construction drawings. And at that point, you can then really nail down your costs and therefore get a proper handle on how much it's going to cost you to build this out. And then you're able to cost it out. You're then able to go to funders and you're able to go to investors with a project. And we'll show you again how to package that up. And then we have group coaching. So our group coaching is so anybody who purchases the land finding course at the moment, they can get the group coaching, but it's an add-on, so it's £100 per month. So when I first launched this program back in May, we included 4 months free group coaching. I've now extended that to the end of 2024. So at this point, there are 14 months essentially if we start from November, and so that's essentially worth £1,400. That's how I calculated that figure out. Obviously that becomes a diminishing value the later somebody joins us. So somebody who joins mid 2024 is only going to get 6 months, so it's a diminishing value. And then, so the total of you get all the templates in all of these courses, and I'll go through a little bit more detail on what's in those. But the total value of those bonuses is 2,900 plus VAT. That's kind of why I'm saying is that you probably wouldn't want to buy them separately. So if anything that interests you, then I would I think the best thing is to have a discovery call and answer your questions, like one-on-one. If that interests you, then put something in the chat. And I'm just going to go on now. Just a yes in the chat if it interests you. And I'll arrange for a discovery call. So this is going back to the roadmap. So the Find It is essentially these 3 modules here, but it's actually broken down into 11 separate courses. And then we've got the Planet part, which is the application for planning and all the associated parts of that, and applying for building control. Facilitating it is basically doing your all your costings, arranging your contractors. We show you how to do that, how to comply with health and safety regulations, and then finally fund it. And then the last bit felt fairly self-explanatory, is actually getting down to the build, so clearing the site, again, complying with health and safety regulations, starting to build out the foundations, completing the superstructure, and then finally selling it, basically finishing off and either selling it or renting out, depending on what your exit strategy is. So within the Find It course, as I said, there's various elements. We talk about what the planners want. We've got 3 that talk about different ways to source land. Then we've got calculating GDV, costs, viability, negotiation, securing the deal. That comprises of 189 video lessons and all the templates, and any future updates. And of course, lifetime access. The Planet and Build I've gone through those, basically what they are on the roadmap. That's 72 video lessons, and there's 69 templates in those. Again, for all future updates. And as I said before, there is a point where you can get stuck with this. With all the best training in the world, every site is going to have its own different characteristics. And so the group coaching, it seems to work very well. I've had some very good comments from that, and people kind of think that the whole thing's worth it just for the group coaching. So really, yeah, this is just summarizing what I've said here when you face a particular problem. So what we've kind of done is create a success environment. It's about putting yourself in the right position, taking what you do and knowing what to do and getting it done. So by doing that, we have an accountability group. So at the group coaching every week, I ask people to commit to what they're going to do in the next week. They're then accountable to their peers and myself. And that kind of keeps people on track. And one of the things Owen said at one time, I remember saying that sometimes, things weren't necessarily going well. He was having a week where he was a bit frustrated, so things didn't quite happen the way he'd hoped they had, but he found this kept him on track, and it was motivating. We have a good group of people. It's a small group of people. I think the peer support and the camaraderie actually works very well. As I said, that's group coaching to the end of 2024. We have the model, create the momentum, and we have the community. And what I'll do now is I'm just going to stop my share. No, actually, I'm going to take the slides down and just, if I can, told you this would be a bit of a fiddle, so just bear with me. Okay, all right, so if I go into, this is the membership site here. Here's all the different lessons. If I just go into one of the courses, these are released one a week. So you've got 17 actual courses, and they're broken down into individual lessons. So you can do this at bite size, and then you are able to watch the lesson. And then once you can mark that complete, and then at the end of it, there's some homework. There's something for you to carry out that week. And so that's kind of why it's left like that, so as it gives you time to actually complete that homework. And then what I'd like to do is just show you this workbook. This is what I called the software workbook. For each viable, when you've got a landowner that says, I'm kind of interested in perhaps buying this, selling my land, you're then going to go away and do your assessments. You don't do that until you've at least got a nod from the landowner, because there's no point in wasting time on that until you know that there's at least a chance that they're going to sell. So you create one of these. This is the process that you need to follow. So it takes you at each point, what do I need to do next? So you're just putting in the contact information just so you've got it somewhere to put it, working out your GDV, and then we have our build cost model. This is an actual house. We've taken this from drawings. We've costed it all up. All these green figures can be changed, and the way that you do that is you go back to these two tabs here, where you're able to influence the labor rates. So you're able to look at your own local labor rates, and that will then reflect back into the build cost model. And you're also then able to do the same for the materials. So we give you lists, so you can take those to builders, merchants with quantities, so you can get a realistic quote what the materials would be for your particular area. Now, that's not to say that you couldn't do better than those prices, but you're looking for an initial start. So when you actually start building, if you're being able to negotiate better prices, that's only going to increase your profit level. So it's really just to give you a basis so that you can negotiate the right value for the site. So then you come into your project, and here you list all your different project costs. It's only the sort of like, I don't know what the color, salmon sort of color, that you actually change the figures in. So if I go to the build cost model, there's actually none of these figures that you need to change, but it's just these figures here in yellow that you would change, which are then reflected into the costs. So the project costs, and eventually this brings you to the deal analysis. And it's this figure. What we do is we first of all take off the profit, which is at least 25% on build costs. So we take that off, and that gives us the selling value, the residual land value for that. Because this hasn't got any figures in it, it's showing a negative figure. But if in reality, if it was a negative figure that was showing, then you would that wouldn't be a viable deal. So you're looking for at least a positive figure there before you go on to the next stage. And then we have a site checklist. This is where you check through various items. There's about 50 or 60 items here, I can't quite remember, and any cost implications, once you've investigated that, will go in this column, and it feeds back into the project costs and ultimately the deal analysis. And then the final tab is where you actually create your offer document, which you're then going to take back to the landowner as part of your negotiation process. So I think that's pretty much it. I've got time just for a couple of questions. So I'll open that up. Maybe I'll just get Owen to just, because you found a couple of, well, you've found more than a couple of deals. Maybe you can just very, very briefly tell about your experience of going through the training, and also what it's actually like to implement it.
Yeah, no, it's too. So
incidentally, Owen is not a duplicate of me. He's for some reason his name and my name's come up on his.
Yeah.
I don't know quite why.
Don't know what's going on there. No, still. Yeah. So I obviously joined the gym about 18 months ago, 2 years ago, near, I suppose. I've always had an interest in doing property. I've got buy-to-lets and some HMOs, but development was the next step. Buy-to-lets won't get me anywhere I wanted to quick enough. So I've got a young family to support, so good thing, go into developing, make some more money, it'd be nice. So yeah, so I obviously joined the course. Obviously there's a lot to it. I'm an electrician by trade, so I know the construction side, but I didn't have no idea how to construct the deal, how to find the land. I knew nothing about planning. These are all things I needed to learn. So obviously go on with Jim, we took the time to go through the course. And obviously I'm a busy person, so I don't really have lots of time in the week. So I still managed to do it in a couple of hours each night. I just work my way through. It's a bit of dedication. It's what it kind of needs, really. Yeah, so work through it. And throughout the whole process, I've learned a lot from Jim. Obviously, it's particularly when it comes to the negotiation side of things, and also when it comes to putting together your workbooks. The workbook is absolutely fantastic, by the way. It's every time I've done the offers, the feedback, I always ask for feedback, so I can improve the next one. And it always comes back that the offer document that the workbook gives you at the end it's so detailed and it breaks down everything so well that the landowners, you know, they love it. They've got, it gives you a lot of faith and a lot of you know, of a good bit of trust between you and the landowner, because this document breaks everything down so well for you. And actually, they can see, they're on your side then, because they can see where the costs are. They can see the exact why you've come to the actual value of the land. So, you know, which they wouldn't know before. They just get told by an estate agent, or just in their heads they think it's worth an X amount. Well, you can definitely show exactly what it's worth. But yeah, so I've got 2 deals at the moment, going through the planning process. There's really good profit in those, so I can, after this first one, I can definitely pull away from my main job, which is an electrician. I've got 4 other ones in the pipeline I'm working on now, which they're all keen. The landowners are very keen, so I'm just putting the cost together for those. And yeah, so you know, I think this is going to be an absolute game changer and a life changer for me and my family. You know, and you know, like I say, even when I'm on the calls, you know, I learn loads from everyone else on the calls, even from people who just joined. They've got different experiences, because everyone's in different areas. So obviously they're kind of issues that you might come up against in future, which is really good. You know, if you've got any issues, the support has always been there for me. You know, Jim's always there. I can always just send an email. We can, you know, we can get on the calls on a weekly call. We can have a chat on the group calls, show any plots or anything we've got coming up, see if anyone's got any input on any issues we might have. And the accountability thing is a huge thing for me. You know, to keep me pushing and keep going. You know, it's easy at the end of the day just to sit on the couch and just not do a lot. But the accountability thing is really a good push. Yeah, and the support has also been a huge draw for me. But I've loved the course, every second of it. You know, so yeah, that's where I am now. And yeah, I think it's a good thing to go on to, guys. If you fancy trying this, then I 100% would give it another go anytime. It's fantastic. It's been good.
Thanks, Owen. Thanks, Owen. You got one deal, haven't you, where a surveyor came back with a valuation that surprised you, isn't it?
Oh, was this was this the one with, well, yeah, it's quite a huge valuation on it, actually. Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was. Yeah. If I got that, it would be a very nice profit, extremely good profit.
Yeah.
But we'll see how that one goes. But it's not out of the realms of possibility. Maybe.
Yeah.
We'll see.
All right. Cool. All right. So I'm kind of up to the time that I said I would be. Is there anybody got any questions that they want to ask? Feel free to unmute yourself and ask away if you've got any questions. If you're interested in doing that, even if you're not interested in doing it right now, there will be other dates opening up next year. What I would suggest, if you've got any interest at all, just let's book a discovery call. This is a non-pressurized situation. It's just a discussion. I want to make sure that this is a good fit for you and that we are a good fit for you. So it's because the property development is not like buy-to-lets, HMOs. You know, there's an awful lot more involved, and it takes a bit more grit, I would say. And so the last thing I want is somebody coming onto this that really doesn't understand that, but also that I don't think is going to be able to, you know, handle it. So it is very much, you know, it's not a dead cert that will take everybody into it. I have had a couple of people where I've had to just say, I just don't think this is for you. You know, I'm not like a lot of these people that you see on YouTube that tells you that you're going to be a millionaire next week. You know, it's a slow burn, property development. You know, you've heard Owen there, you know, he's got several deals in the pipeline, but you know, he still hasn't realized his first profit, and he's been doing this 18 months, 2 years part-time. Certainly even my first deal, it took me 2 years before, you know, from the point that I decided to start looking for land. And I actually found the land quite quickly. It got held up a little bit in planning. Actually took me about a year to get planning. I've had planning in 6 weeks for a deal, and I've had ones that's taken over 2 years. So that's out with your control. So people need to understand that it's not, you know, it's not a quick thing, but it is a real way to generate wealth once you get the thing moving, because you can be lining up these deals, and that's kind of what Owen has done. He's got these deals in the pipeline, and you know, one could come a deal that he's worked on earlier may be actually one that comes in later, and he actually starts doing another development. And that's kind of why we encourage you to build a pipeline, because you're never quite sure when they are. But the main thing is that you don't actually have to put out money for land if you do it via an option agreement or a promoter agreement. So we teach you how to do that, but it means that you're only taking on the site once you're ready to actually start developing it. So the fact that you've reached this part of the video tells me that you have either stayed the course or you skipped to this part of the video, but it also probably tells me that you've got some interest in joining us on a find and fund program. So the next step would be to book a discovery call to make sure that we're a good fit for each other and that you properly understand the commitment that will be required to be a successful property developer. So book that call. There'll be a link in the description below, and we will have a chat and make sure that this is right for you. Until then, I look forward to speaking with you. Bye-bye.